Do you want to begin?
Maria, we can start, but we're missing Provost Gonzalez. Should we begin? Or do you want to wait? Can we wait a few minutes, Maria?
It's your call. Yep.
Yeah, I think we should wait maybe another minute or two.
All right. We'll put some elevator music or something.
It's like
Oh,
it's
my.
like the old days of
Smooth.
state
Yeah, rock.
legislatures.
Everybody but Dr. Olson is here.
Dr. Olson's there, Polly?
No, he's not.
Oh, okay. Okay, he's not here. He's not here either, but I believe he's on his way, either there or here somewhere.
Okay, well,
Okay.
wherever he is, we'll be ready. So,
Yeah, he's not on until about 15 minutes, so we should be fine.
so I think we can begin officially, Maria, if you're good with that.
Okay, do your thing.
Okay. do my thing. Okay. All right, everybody, welcome. This is our fourth, believe it or not, Senate meeting. We somehow made it to December. And I call this meeting to order. So we will begin with a quorum question. So Maria,
Thank
you
you.
want to launch that poll?
Yep. Launching. Give me a sec. I'm not sure what I'm sharing. Give me one sec.
It's okay, I can't read that anyway.
There we go.
I'm being stuck.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, so we should have in front your iClicker, which I'm going to turn on right now. It's the quorum question. My computer's a little bit slow, so bear with me, but you should have it now. 16 responses, yes. So this one is the first part, select the campus which you represent. A for downtown, B for Poly, C for Tempe, and D for West Valley. Couple more seconds on this poll. Thank you. Stopping the poll. Moving on to our pop quiz. This one's a good one, guys. So this one reads, as ASU prepares to compete in the Big 12 championship against Iowa State on Saturday, December 7th, which
I know,
fun
right?
fact connects this matchup to President Michael Crow? And your options are President Crow previously coached football at Iowa State. B, President Crow earned his bachelor's degree from Iowa State. C, President Crow played football for ASU and Iowa State. Or D, President Crow was inducted into the Iowa State Hall of Fame. Make your selection.
I think we should have all people. No, I know.
It's your job.
Right, Russell.
It's your job too.
Oh, wow.
We wrestled.
Okay, we're gonna stop the
Good
poll.
job on that. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And the answer is B. And yes, we have forum. You guys
Thank
pass.
you, thank you,
Thank
thank
you.
you. We learned some new fun facts today, so. So the next item on our agenda is our action on our minutes from our November meeting. So the minutes for our last meeting have been posted, they were November 4th. Are there any corrections, additions, comments on any of the meeting minutes from November? Let's see. You have to flag me down today. Okay, hearing none, the minutes are approved. Thank you, and thank you to Phil for being a fantastic secretary and keeping us all in order. So the next thing on our agenda is my very brief, as always, report for us. I'm really pleased with the work that we've done over the course of this semester. We've only had 4 meetings together, but I feel like we're kind of coming together as a Senate, forming an identity, leaning into whatever is next for us. We have a few more spots left, just about 3 spots left for our legislative leadership and shared governance training. So if you're interested, please click on the link in your agenda. This is a training that will go throughout the spring, and it's for people who are either leading committees, leading units, leading programs, secretaries, parliamentarians, anybody who wants to learn more about how to effectively lead and how to do so with structure and shared governance. So please consider signing up. Tomorrow from 10 to 12 in the Senate office is our end of year open house, and we're doing a drive for the Pitchfork Pantry. That is a project that one of our past presidents, Maureen McCoy, she leads, and it's to help students, college students on all campuses, make sure they have enough to eat. We have a great little form where you can submit your donations and learn more about that. As a little funny limerick, so I am strong arming my dentist into donating toothbrushes. And he's gonna donate like 35 toothbrushes. So if you, like me, are the queen of BOGOs and coupons and you have extra deodorant and extra toothpaste and extra shampoo, and you wanna do a good clean out, this is a good time to do a little bit of a clean out. Please consider, even if you can only come for half an hour, have a cup of coffee and a cookie, it'll be a good time to be together. The other thing I wanted to talk about a little bit is I wanted to review the two kinds of motions that come to the Senate and make sure everybody is clear, because it's a lot of jargon and it's quite a bit of a learning curve in the Senate. And so we thought it would be a good time to review the kind of motions that come through. So we have new course proposals and new program proposals. New course proposals come from the provost office, and they come through 2 weeks prior to the Senate meeting through your email as a first read. That's the long course list that Maria sends out. If you have any issue with any new course proposal that comes out, you need to let us know before the Senate meeting, so that the 2 weeks from when Maria sends the email out to when we have the Senate meeting are prime time to raise issues. You can always bring up issues in the Senate meeting, but they can kind of slow things down, and it doesn't always lead for solution very easily in the Senate meeting. So again, first reads are done through email, second reads are done live in the Senate. That is different than the motions that come from CAPC. So CAPC reviews new program proposals, and those come through as first reads and second reads in the Senate. Now, the prime time for raising an issue with a CAPC motion is after the first read, but before the next CAPC meeting. So today, Claudia is going to go through, our chair of CAPC, she's going to go through all the new program proposals, and you have until January 30th to reach out to her if you have an issue or a concern or a conflict with any of those CAPC motions. I think Claudia's here. Claudia, did you have anything that you wanted to add to that? Any points of clarification? I know we talked about this a little bit.
No, I can just go. I actually can't put my video on for some reason. If you guys could look into that over there. Do you guys, did you have the handout or the graphic?
Yeah, so Claudia worked with Provost Office with KV to help us generate two sort of workflow graphics. I don't know if Maria has them handy, but if not, we can absolutely send them out and post them. There you are.
Hey,
on the agenda.
Yeah.
Do you have those handy, Maria, by chance?
I don't. I will
Okay.
post them on the website or send them out through
Okay.
email if that's okay.
Perfect.
Perfect.
No, I think all I wanted to add is, so when I do the first reads, I always say, please contact me or the Senate President with any questions, concerns, objections, and so on and so forth. And so please, take that literally. That's really what we mean, and just contact me via email. And then what usually happens, the next step is that we work with the provost office, and the provost office then tries to, basically resolve or, address the issues with the units. Usually it's 2 units that have issues with each other. And then what happens next is, usually those issues get worked out. And if they don't get worked out, then it comes to us, to CAPC, for discussion and vote. And at that point, we take into considerations potential objections as well. And we can either ask for modifications on proposals, which we've done, which you don't necessarily see in Senate when it comes to US second reads. Or we can, vote down a proposal, or we can approve it, obviously. And if it gets voted down, or if we ask for changes, you will only see. So if we actually get voted, if we were to vote it down, it does not come for a second read to Senate. And it only comes to us for a second read if the proposal is modified with the kinds of things we ask for. So you really have, the point is just to say that you have, actually a voice in this as senators, and that's how the process is supposed to work. And just to reiterate, CAPC does not deal with the course, with individual course proposals, but just program proposals. And as always,
you.
just contact me with questions.
And if all of that sounds super confusing, just send me an email and I'm happy to walk you through it again. But again, when Maria sends that email out, read those new courses, let me know if you have questions. And then after the first reads for CAPC in the Senate meeting, reach out to Claudia if you have questions. And again, the next CAPC meeting is January 30th. So you have from now until January 30th, if you have any concerns about CAPC motions. I also wanted to share with you all that, was it last week or about a week and a half ago, we had the ABOR meeting, and it was at U of A in Tucson, and it was a really fantastic meeting. Provost Gonzalez presented the new Regents professors, and we meet with the other senates at U of A and NAU, and we work collaboratively, together with them to look at common issues that we're experiencing. And we are really working hard to create more engagement opportunities with the regents. They are our partners, they are our allies, they are not the ones that determine the budget. So I think that's an important distinction we need to make. And we look forward to working with them in the future and working together with the other universities. The last point I will mention before I hand it off to the Provost Gonzalez is that we are going to stop, quote, planning the agenda at 4:50. We're gonna fake end the meeting at 4:50, so we will have a built-in open forum, because it's one of those, if you build it, we'll fill it, and we end up filling the agenda, and I think that's short-circuiting some of our conversation. So we will make a point to stop planning the agenda on our end at 4:50, so we will always have 10 minutes. That was something that we talked about with the presidents. That's really important, and we didn't get to that last time, and I apologize for that. So if there's any questions, I don't see anything, any hands raised. No. Okay, well, thank you. And without further hesitation, I will hand it off to Provost Gonzalez.
Thank you very much. So is Dr. Olson coming?
I believe
here.
so.
He's
oh,
here.
Okay, I just want to make sure you get
Okay.
Do you want to
because I
move
had
to
the
your
wrong
seat?
room
No,
number.
you're fine
Okay.
there.
So I had some slides, that we can put those up. First of all, I want to say it's great to be on this campus. I've been here all day. We started with an 8:30 all the deans were here for Dean's Council meeting, and I've been here since. Beautiful campus, and it's a gorgeous day. But anyway, I just want to start by saying, hey, did you see that? That was a great game. Over in the first quarter, it was just a lot of fun. To have that big win against U of A. And as you probably now know, we're going to the championship game in Dallas this Saturday. So continue to root for us. It really, they had us ranked last in the conference, and we just have had a tremendous season. And Coach Dillingham is great, and Graham Rosini are great, and we're just on a really good path with football and athletics at ASU. So I just thought I'd start there. Then if we can go to the next slide. One of the things that I mentioned in the last UAC meeting is that, we get ranked, and I'm always bringing rankings to you, and, impact rankings on all sorts of things. And, in fact, just I think in ASU News today, we're reporting on the herd rankings that we're really getting very close to that $1 billion mark. And so we're excited about all the ways that ASU continues to succeed and reach our mission. But this one was really quite nice, which is that we were the #2 public university in the US for the employability of our students. And this one is so nice because it's not just that we provide broad access and we recruit such large amounts of students, which we're proud of and we talk about a lot, but they're doing very well in the marketplace. They're getting jobs and they're seen as, you know, as outstanding students. The number one spot was Berkeley, and all the other spots were mostly privates and all the typical names of privates, but we're very proud of this one. So, and that's the work that all of the faculty do for ASU. So thank you for that. So I wanted to also, I've mentioned this before, but I just want to once again ask you to get the word out about the Folk Fest. Folk stands for Future of Learning Community, which is a community meeting for ASU faculty and instructional designers and other people, graduate students, other people playing a role in teaching and learning at ASU. It's a great conference. It's free to our community. It's a great way for people to come together and really join on what matters for student success and learning, and to be at the cutting edge of the technologies. Panels, we have various panels that are hosted by primarily our faculty as well as other people in teaching and learning. We have students present. President Crow will be one of the keynote speakers at this conference, and the theme is Principled Innovation. Next slide. If you just sort of want a little sample of what the benefits are for faculty, great opportunity for professional development, networking, learning best practices, learning about new up and coming technologies, good way to engage with the broader community and to reflect and get inspired about your teaching practices. And the dates are February 27th and 28th. If you take that URL code, it'll take you to the registration site. We'll give you these slides, but please do get the word out to your faculty. We'd love to have great attendance like we did last year. As we just heard, we presented our Regents professors for approval at the last ABOR meeting. And one of the things that we've been trying to do is to recognize that our faculty contribute in so many ways to the mission of ASU. So I wanted to just highlight both our Regents professors as well as our new awards, the Charter Professors and the Provost Teaching Award winners to you. So first, we've got 3 new Regents professors: Jim Bell from the School of Earth and Space Exploration, Hao Yan from the School of Molecular Sciences and the Biodesign Institute, and Amber Budich from the School of Human Evolution and Social Change. All great scientists who have been really spent the bulk of their careers here at ASU. In fact, Amber was a postdoctoral student at ASU, and they have all had truly outstanding careers. Let me just read a little bit, got a long citation on them. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just a little bit about their work. So starting with Professor Yan, he's a leading figure in the fields of DNA nanotechnology, biomimetics, and DNA origami engineering. His groundbreaking work has redefined these scientific areas and established ASU as a global leader in molecular design and biomimetics. For over 2 decades, he has created novel DNA-based structures and devices that have advanced our understanding and application of molecular assembly for diagnosing diseases, enhancing computing, and innovating material sciences. He has a long list of awards to his names, including the Forsyth Institute Feynman Prize in Nanotechnology, the Alexander von Humboldt Research Award, fellowships with the National Academy of Inventors, the American Association of the Advancement of Sciences, and the American Institute for Medical and Biological Engineering. So Jim Bell is an internationally acclaimed leader in planetary science. He's known for his role in NASA missions like the Mars Pathfinder, the NEAR, the Mars Odyssey, and the Mars Science Laboratory. He led the development of the panoramic camera on the Mars rovers Spirit and Opportunity, contributing to our understanding of planetary surfaces. He's a prolific and impactful scholar, and he's also known for his public science communication, really trying to work to bring science to lay audiences and youth to help them understand and be excited about the role of science in society. He's also earned numerous prestigious awards, including the Carl Sagan Medal for Excellence in Public Communications. The International Astronomical Union honored him by naming an asteroid 8146 Jim Bell in recognition of his impactful scientific contributions. And then finally, Amber Wudich is a world-renowned scientist, anthropologist known for her exceptional work on water insecurity. She directs the Global Ethnohydrology Study, which is a cross-cultural study of water knowledge and management in over 20 countries. Her 2 decades of community-based fieldwork explore how people respond individually and collectively to extreme water scarce conditions. She also has been a prolific author, authoring or co-authoring 6 books and over 200 research papers. Her 2 decades of community-based research has really worked to find solutions across the globe. She leads Action for Water Equity, which develops water solutions for water insecure communities here in the US as well. She also has numerous publications, and topping her accomplishments, she was selected as a 2023 MacArthur Fellow by the MacArthur Foundation. That's the award that is often referred to as the MacArthur Genius Award. And that's one that you don't apply to, they pick you. It's a panel who just identifies you, picks you, gives you the call, and we're quite proud of her. So moving along to the next slides. You may remember we introduced charter professors, which is a way for us to recognize faculty members who are really demonstrating their commitment to the ASU Charter of Inclusion and Success, research of public value, and contributions to the community. Charter professors sort of embody the spirit of ASU in important ways in their work, whether it be in teaching, service, or in their research. And we honor both a career track as well as a tenure track faculty member each year. So we're very excited this year. See who we've got up front first on the next slide. Trevor Reed. Trevor Reed is a professor of law at the Sandra Day O'Connor College of Law. And since his appointment in 2018, he has focused his scholarship, teaching, and service on developing legal infrastructures to foster creation and innovation on tribal lands, while also generating strategies to better protect Indigenous traditional knowledge and traditional cultural expressions from misappropriation. So the Charter Professor Award comes with a salary increase, but it also provides funding for 3 years to be able to further your work. And so Professor Reed will build on his research over the next 3 years in partnership with local tribal nations. He'll provide culturally engaged training programs and web-based learning environments for Indigenous creators and innovators to help them successfully navigate the complex world of intellectual property, secure greater levels of protection for their creative works, and find greater stability and growth with tribal creative economies. So then the next award winner is Maureen McCoy, who you all know very well. Maureen is a teaching professor in the College of Health Solutions. And for the past 6 years, she has served as a faculty advisor to the Pitchfork Pantry, which you were just talking about. It's a student organization aimed at tackling food insecurity on ASU's campuses. Her work is an embodiment of the ASU Charter, supporting the success of our students and the health of the community through the dissemination of free, nutritious food, essential clothing, and hygiene products. And as Charter Professor, Professor McCoy will expand the pantry's impact by supporting education and the development of cooking skills to help community members prepare nutritious meals. Through a nutrition education video series and in-person cooking demonstrations, students will learn the skills they need to be able to produce nutritious school meals for themselves at all levels of income, and which is a great skill for them to take off after they finish at ASU. And then finally, our 2 awards for teaching professors. We can go to the next slide. We lost her. Here we go. So the Provost Teaching Awards recognizes teaching excellence and a commitment to fostering an educational environment in which all students succeed. And this year, if we go to the next slide, we are awarding the Provost Teaching Award to Heather Bateman. Here, Heather is a professor in the School of Applied Sciences and Arts at the College of Integrated Sciences and Arts. And Heather, through her teaching, is committed to creating spaces where underrepresented individuals in wildlife ecology and conservation will feel included and respected. As a teacher scholar, she draws on all areas of her research background, providing real-world examples into her classroom teaching. Her teaching goals focus on teaching graduate and undergraduate students ways to integrate aspects of discovery and curiosity with hands-on experience to achieve real-world application and conservation. Congratulations to Heather. And then our final award winner for Provost Teaching Award is Carolyn Kavanaugh Toft. She is a teaching professor and teaching faculty area head in the Department of Psychology in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. As a psychology professor, Carolyn Toft uses storytelling as a primary mode of teaching, as well as using examples that are relevant to students' lives. Her teaching is heavily influenced by a combination of extensive clinical work. She's been a practicing psychologist, working with youth and children predominantly, and her strong academic background in science. She brings to her teaching a passion for the field of psychology, coupled with a desire to help students learn, utilizing scholarly and evidence-based teaching practices. And she's from my home unit in the psychology department, and she's always been what we consider, our best teacher. I mean, she's just incredible, and she's part of a really strong network of teaching professors who are just doing excellent work. And when she was surprised with this award, so we brought the two teaching professors and the two charter professors into an academic chair, director, and dean meeting last Tuesday. We had no idea why we were there. We announced their names, and they all spoke eloquently about their work, and Carolyn took extra time to just recognize the other teaching professors that have played such a big role in strengthening teaching, in that department. So anyway, exciting to be able to present all of these faculty to you. That's, I think, ending on a high note is where I would like to end. But I do want to say just one thing in closing, which is we've had a lot of questions about, with the election and the change in administration, what does this mean? And just to assure everybody that with every change in administration like this, we're on the lookout for ways in which policies and procedures and priorities will need to shift. And we're really on it, really looking closely at ways that we need to, be prepared to make important changes. So, without going into great detail, just know that we are, very closely following all potential changes that might have an impact on what we do here at ASU, and also any impacts on our students or our faculty, staff.
Thank you. We will take questions, but while you're thinking of your question, I do also want to add that we all know and love Maureen as our past president for downtown, but Trevor was also a senator from downtown. So we have some strong Senate connections to some of these awards. So that's pretty
Very
cool.
good.
We're going to try something a little bit different with questions rather than go to each campus because that eats up time. We're going to see if you've got questions, let your president know, and then they can flag us down and we'll just pause and wait a second here. We're trying to be smart, efficient, innovative with our time, if we will. Any questions?
Yeah, we have a question.
Tempe has a question.
Okay, please. Tempe.
Hi, my name is Hongik Yang. I'm at Shippers at the Tempe campus. If you don't mind me revisiting an old topic, the Santana Alliance, I had a couple additional questions just to follow up. So broadly, I have two questions on the repository and then the pathways. So for the repository, I was wondering if we could get some clarification on the process of including or updating or removing courses from it. As for example, specifically regarding the Canvas shells, are all the materials in the Canvas shells going to be available for reference at the partner universities? And in this case, with things like video lessons that that faculty make, would those be available? And one of the concerns about that would be, identities of faculty, of course, being revealed through those videos. And just, what is the faculty's role in this whole process of course selection for the repository? And then second, for the pathways, so the pathways, in our understanding, the pathways are the major maps for Santana-linked universities. And as a humanities-focused school for shippers, we were wondering how humanities courses specifically fit into these pathways. Most participating students seem to be from engineering, business, non-humanities degrees. So we were just wondering, how, where the humanities fit into these general studies requirements that these partner university students have to fulfill. So thank you.
Absolutely. So the question about how do you find out about what's in the repository and who has access to the repository. So on the access side, ACIs, which are the ASU Santana partners, they have access to material that's relevant to whatever their partner contract was with us, rather than access to everything. And then decisions about what to put into the repository are made by EdPlus because they manage the digital material. And if you want to know if something specifically is in, you can contact Julia Rosen, who shared her, it's julia.rosen@asu.edu, and Rosen is ROSEN. Or you can also contact your point person for your college to ask them those questions. And then you're right that a lot of the pathways that have been articulated for our partners have been in engineering and business. The world wants engineering and business. And Thunderbird also has programs. There are others. I mean, psychology tends to be a more popular degree in other partnering countries. And we're starting to see more recent different partners coming in and wanting different degrees, but heavily engineering and business. For the most part, if the partners are going into the repository to pull information, and we've got they're going to do a 3+1, they're for the most part going to be focused on their majors and not necessarily all of Gen Studies. We do have some partners that have these arrangements where they get simultaneously an ASU degree as well as a degree at their institution. And in those situations, those students do need to fulfill our general studies requirements. And so they will need to be taking, pulling from general studies available courses. And that's where I think we're going to see more of the courses like from the humanities being part of those articulation maps.
Thank you. Did I see another person? Sorry, I took off my glasses here. Nope. Okay, and as always, if you have additional questions that we don't get to, please feel free to email me and I'm happy to, or of course you can email the provost directly, but this is not the end of the conversation, it's just for time. So if you need more answers to things, let me know and we can send them forward and get you those answers. And so moving right along, thank you very much for myself. We're going to welcome another guest, Dr. Morgan Olson, who is going to present to us a little bit about finance at ASU and how it works and where it comes from. I know this has been a hot topic that a lot of us have wanted to know more about, so he's gratefully agreed to come speak with us. So there'll be a short presentation or a presentation, and then we will spend some time engaging questions. So welcome, Dr. Olson. We're happy to have you.
Oh, pleasure to be with you here this afternoon. As Elisa said,
You want to speak to the microphone?
That's right. And I'll try not to walk around.
Do
which
you
is-
want, do you want mine?
which
That way
now
you can
it's
walk
okay.
around?
I'll just be rooted to the podium here. So happy to come and talk a little bit about the ASU budget, kind of where it comes from, how it's used, et cetera. I sometimes joke with people that I'm in charge of the lack of money, which is kind of how it feels. You know, universities are places filled with really smart people with all kinds of ideas, and you know, we try to fund as many of them as we possibly can. But the reality is you know, you won't get to everything immediately, and that's just the name of the game. What I did want to do was talk a little bit about three things. If I can get it to advance here, it's resisting my efforts now. Are you able to
No,
advance?
do you want to do it through this? Yeah, point it to there, up and down.
This way?
Yeah,
Uh,
maybe not.
So far, so bad.
Okay, hold on.
So if you can just advance here while I try to figure that out. So I want to talk about three things. A little bit about ASU Public Enterprise, and then talk about, you know, where the money sort of comes from, how that works, and then ultimately how it's used, and you know, from at least a financial standpoint, what are some of the considerations that go into, you know, how do we allocate money, and how much do we spend? So there we go, now it worked. First thing I want to talk about was the ASU Public Enterprise. This is something we hear from President Crow all the time, and he means multiple things by that term, ASU Public Enterprise. It's a way of organizing, you know, our institution, which I'll talk about more in a minute, but it's also a way of thinking in terms of how we operate the institution. And what he means by that, of course, is that, you know, we're very big on innovation around here, and so he wants us to be innovative, think about doing new things, doing things in a new way that we think might be better, but also about being opportunistic, you know, quick to move. So for example, moving into online education relatively early and having a get big fast strategy definitely has paid off for the institution, both financially and programmatically. And so that's one example of that. And he also, you know, hopes that we will take advantage of a range of opportunities. In other words, kind of diversify our efforts. So back to the organizational design here, the kind of three mission parts of the ASU enterprise are academic enterprise, you know, the colleges and the schools that are responsible for teaching and learning and lots of other important things. Knowledge enterprise, which is responsible for the development and delivery of new knowledge. And then our sort of the newest of the three, which is learning enterprise, which is really responsible for helping foster learning across the age continuum, but also partnering with various organizations and individuals around the globe, you know, to make sure that we're sharing our assets in a wide variety of ways that perhaps some colleges and universities haven't previously thought of. And then also talk a little bit about the little gray box at the bottom. Coincidental, it's gray, maybe not. The ASU Public Enterprise is really about some of the tools that we've created that I kind of liken them to, you know, a Swiss Army knife. They have lots of little different implements that are really things that have been designed ultimately to do just one thing generically, and that's to help support the growth of Arizona State University in a variety of ways. Each of those is sort of a, you know, special purpose tool that is optimized for its purpose, you know, whether that's, say, what we do in the way of sponsored research in foreign countries or the defense industry, or what we do in some areas of real estate. Those are just a few examples of those entities. But they all help us as part of the enterprise to sort of achieve the mission, develop additional resources, and become more effective as a higher learning institution. And so it allows us, as the last point says, really to leverage, you know, leverage resources, leverage the access to capital, and leverage expertise that can partner with the expertise we have with the institution to do more and better things. Down at the bottom there, you can see examples of some of those units. There are more of them, but I won't go over each of those in the interest of time here. But you know, they've been custom designed to serve particular purposes to kind of advance the university. So why is that important? It's important in part because it helps us generate additional resources to run the university. I want you to look at that little pink part of these stacked bar charts. This is the time period of President Crow's presidency at Arizona State University, and these are revenues that include the university, Arizona State University proper, but all of these affiliated entities as well. And that affiliated entity revenue is the pink part there. If you can see how that's grown, that's an important part of our success here, is contributing additional resources to do all the things that people want to do. Something else that I would point out about this chart is if you look at public investment, which is largely state appropriations, you know, we are Arizona State University, most people are surprised at how small, you know, that little slice is and how it hasn't grown. In fact, it's actually declined. I started here about 16 years ago in 2008, and by about December of that year, it became pretty clear that not all was well with the economy. So during that 4-year period, now we look back on that time period, and we refer to it as the Great Recession. The state reduced its investment in Arizona State University by $200 million a year, or about 40% at that time. And of course, we're a growing institution. If you factor that on a per full-time equivalent student basis, it was actually a 51% reduction in state investment in Arizona State University. So, you know, what that really meant in part is that we needed to think about, you know, how we operated the institution, and particularly how we generated resources, just realizing that that was part of the economic landscape for us. And so those are a couple of things I'd point out. And I'd also point out, if you look at the darker blue part of the bar there, which is tuition and fees, you can see how the total tuition and fee revenue has grown over that time period. All of that has been really important in terms, can someone advance the slide? It's not responding to my clicker here. Wait, that way? Okay, there we go. So a little more about public investment. This is just last year and this year. You know, we went into the spring and had the Board of Regents approve our operating budget, assuming a certain level of public investment by the state. It actually ended up being less than that. You've probably all seen some of the challenges economically the state has been having, and so we sort of shared in that. But our, you know, we never recovered. We never really received the dollars. When I got here in 2008, state investment for ASU was $500 million. You can see these numbers here, the green boxes at the top. They're still 16 years later less in dollar terms, and of course much less in terms of inflation adjusted numbers. And so that's never really recovered. And so an important part of what we have to do is to find, you know, other ways to gain the resources that we need to do what's necessary. So
Here, I slide. I advanced it, but let me double check.
yeah, thank you. While we're working on that, you can see there are monies that come directly to the university through appropriation, and then in recent years there have been significant components that have come as a pass-through from the Board of Regents. Examples of that would be the Arizona Promise, which goes into financial aid for Arizona residents, mostly need-based. And then also the Arizona Teachers Academy, which has been a public policy response to the need for additional K-12 teachers and supporting that. And so, I don't know, thank you. So if you look at this year's budget snapshot, here's just a pie chart of the revenue and the expense. As you can see there, the largest proportion of our resources, and this is university budget only, by the way, not full enterprise, about $2.8 billion this year comes from tuition and fee revenues, which is now roughly 6 times the amount that comes from public investment, $449 million in this number, and that's everything. That's operating dollars from public investment, that's support of capital infrastructure, et cetera. And then on the expense side, as probably wouldn't surprise you, you know, we are an organization that's driven by our talent, and so the largest proportion, almost half of our budget every year is spent on people. You know, faculty and staff, in order to make things happen at the institution. We're, you know, a service organization, service to our students and our partners in a variety of ways. And so you can see how that breaks down. Financial aid, that maroon piece there, is about 20% of total expenses this year at about $970 million. That's all sources. That's institutional direct revenue, but it would also include federal Pell Grant revenue, which is an increasing proportion of the total each and every year. That's how we've been able to support an increasing number of first-generation students from lower socioeconomic strata. You know, if you are from a family whose family income is less than about $65,000, you won't pay anything for tuition and fees at ASU. And that's the way that we become a very accessible and affordable institution. So again, largely the way that we do that is through additional enrollment as we grow. And this is a chart that reflects unduplicated headcount enrollment by year. You can see how that's grown, and particularly how the yellow portions have grown. That's non-resident enrollment, both online, which has grown the most, as well as campus. You know, we seem to be able to find ways to scale the institutions and hit new highs, serve more deserving students in each and every year. I'll also show you, this is a different type of breakdown of our enrollment. This is full-time equivalent enrollment over about a 10-year period. Full-time equivalent enrollment is really the best predictor of gross and net tuition revenue, and so we like to look at it in this way. A couple of things that I would point out to you. You can see in the blue there how much undergraduate non-resident enrollment has grown. Again, that was a conscious strategy in terms of generating additional tuition revenue and supporting more students. You can also see that our enrollment has grown on a pretty strong basis throughout that entire decade, about 4.9% increase on average over that time period. There are not very many institutions across the country who can come close to that number, and so you all ought to feel really good about, you know, your efforts and your colleagues' efforts in terms of continuing to make Arizona State University a very attractive place, you know, to gain a higher education. Our ability to continue to attract, you know, prospective students and their families is critical to this, and everybody's doing a great job, as evidenced by these numbers. Increasingly, a substantial portion of students from other states, and in fact other countries. I think last time I checked, we had over 150 some other countries represented in our enrollment. You can see what's happened there over the 10-year period. It's gone from about 33% to about 41% of total FTE enrollment. And then finally, we've seen some growth in graduate students, particularly non-resident graduate students. President Crow occasionally reminds us there's probably still more that we could do, you know, with Arizona resident graduate students. But overall, this is a very good story and has helped us to do the things that people accomplish here and to generate additional revenue. So a word in that about price, basically, you know, tuition and fees. We've been able to do this largely by increasing the scale of the institution, not by significantly increasing the rate or the price that students pay in terms of net tuition and fees. In fact, if you can see it, I see my closed captioning there is covering part of it, but over about the last 12 or 13 years, we have averaged about a 1.9% increase in the sticker price. In other words, the price before financial aid reduces the sticker price of 1.9%, less than 2% a year increase over that time period. Pretty phenomenal when you look at that's for Arizona residents only, of course. And our sister institutions are both higher than that. You can see the University of Arizona 2.8%, NAU was close to that number as well. Also significantly less than the Higher Education Price Index, which is a market basket of goods that we try to use to measure inflation and the types of things that the university spends its money on. So again, we've been able to really maintain the affordability of the institution. We now, as of a couple of years ago, gained authority from the Board of Regents to actually set our pricing as long as we stay in certain multi-year parameters that the board reviews, discusses, and ultimately approves. And so that was done back in 2023. So it allows us basically to simply announce, you know, what our sticker price of tuition and mandatory fees will be, which we've done each year. And, you know, for next fall, we'll announce that shortly. And that has allowed us to keep that rate of increase at 3% or less. So a real success story there. And so what that means is a lot of the increase, the large majority of the increase that you see in revenue from tuition and fees over the last 10 years has come from additional enrollments rather than increasing the price to a given student. So here is operating revenue by source. Again, this is back to enterprise, looking at the university and those special purpose entities that are intended to help generate resources to run the university. You can see what the budget was last year, this year, and then estimated this year, which, you know, we do quarterly updates. We're required to do that by the Board of Regents, share that with them, and you can kind of see how that lays out there. Despite the fact that we have lower public investment this year than we anticipated, we are going to have more revenue to spend overall. So, that's good news for everybody. Part of this is making sure that we have a diverse revenue model. So, if we rely only on state investment and revenue from increasing tuition rates, it's not going to work the way that we want it to. So we have to look at other types of activities that generate revenue. You actually talked about some, referenced some of them earlier today. There are others. This slide talks particularly about what we are trying to do in terms of ensuring continued growth, both in our campus immersion enrollment and our digital immersion enrollment. Somebody mentioned Sintana earlier, working in partnership with international institutions, not only to generate a stream of revenue, but also a pipeline for, more students to come to the university. I can remember back 15 or so years ago, we didn't have a particularly significant proportion of our students from other countries. And today, when you walk the campus, I mean, it's palpable. You can feel it, and I'm sure all of you spend your time, largely in the classrooms and laboratories, it's even more evident to you. This is a much more diverse and I think, rich educationally place as a result of that. So, that is fantastic and represents the university's leadership. We also work with InStride, which is a company that we actually helped start through Enterprise Partners, one of our special purpose entities. That company is intended to help represent the university's educational programs and other assets to employers who want to make access to higher education part of the total compensation structure of their companies. We've all heard about the concerns about student loans and accumulated student debt, et cetera. So a lot of employers are realizing one of the ways that they can recruit and retain good employees is by saying, hey, you come to work here at Starbucks or Uber or any of the others that we work with, we will actually help you pay for advancement. You start in one area, but you have access to higher education, maybe bachelor's degree, master's degree, whatever, and you have more potential in your career, and you can do that right here at our organization. And so that has been a real positive for us, and InStride helps us market those opportunities to companies around the globe. The California Center is another example, much more prominent activities in the very large state of California, which is, I think, the 5th largest economy in the world if it were a country all by itself. And then we're also doing things through Learning Enterprise, learning through across the age continuum. We all need to be continuous learners these days. Mirabella, that sits on the end of university down here, is one example of that. There are many more. I think Maria has come and talked to you about many of those things. So tremendous potential there. Further pipeline strategies like ASU preparatory academies. We can give people access to a great K-12 education and get them excited also about the opportunity to do more by continuing at Arizona State University. So a lot of things going on there, but the key point is trying to diversify our revenue streams so that there are more of them and they're more significant, that we don't have to rely on any one area that's become probably more volatile or even static than we would like. So part of that, of course, is trying to maintain incentives, for schools and colleges. We know that, teaching more students is more work. And so we try to help with that in a variety of ways, access to technology, various new means of support, but also to reflect that in terms of the budgetary allocations. And Provost Gonzalez would tell you that, this is always sort of in a state of refinement. Do we have this, calibrated the best way possible? There are a lot of expenses that we have to cover, but we'd like to leave as much net revenue for the schools and colleges as we can, whether it's for increased enrollment or, through what we've done with the college support fees, which were put in place, I think, 6-7 years ago now, or F&A and grants or other things. This is something that we look at and review regularly, debate oftentimes, and we certainly look to Nancy to sort of champion the needs of the colleges and schools and sort of assess where those are greatest, and we work on that on a regular basis. So that's been an important part of our strategy as well. So here's another example. This is actually some benchmarking. This comes out of a presentation, the operating and financial review that we make to ABOR each year. I don't expect you necessarily to be able to read this. It might be a little bit small, but what I would like to point out to you is this is a breakdown by function. You see those along the right-hand side there of how much money we spend on each function. And so the ones that are below the little black lines there are all things that are related to most directly to students. So instruction, academic support, student services, and scholarships and fellowships. And what you can see there is that we spend about 2/3 of our total expenditures on those functions as opposed to the things above it: institutional support, research, auxiliary, public service. And if you benchmark that against similar public research universities across the country, we look very good on that. So it's basically trying to prioritize those student-focused types of expenditures. So this next slide, again, probably a little bit of an eye chart. This is the type of information that we share with the Arizona Board of Regents on a quarterly basis. Some of you have probably seen that, one of our sister institutions has been struggling a little bit the last year or so, and that's created a variety of issues. But one of the things it has done then is to heighten the oversight on all three of the Arizona public universities, so we get to spend a whole lot more of our time doing analyses, responding to questions, et cetera. And if we do our work well and we're realistic about our resources and allocate those effectively, and then execute on our plans, we'll be fine. And that's always our goal here. But as you can see here, I won't go through each of these, but the revenues are kind of on the top half of this, the expenses on the bottom half. And in fiscal year 2024, we had a net margin or increase in net position of just under $200 million, $194 million. That number in itself may not mean a whole lot to you. If you look at over the last decade, on average, we've been around $100 million net positive margin each year. Why don't we spend all of that money, you might ask? The reason for that is really twofold. One is so that if we have unanticipated declines in revenue, we don't get as many students as we anticipated, the state can't make as much investment as they had previously, or a whole host of other things, that we don't immediately have to disrupt the normal operating plan of the university. So it's having some savings, just like you probably do in your personal life, to make sure that you're able to handle unanticipated negative events. The second is what we CFOs would refer to as balance sheet strength. So one of the other things that we know here is that we have to build in the cost of our built environment, buildings, laboratory equipment, instructional equipment, AV, into the total costs of our operating budget, because there aren't other sources for that. Unlike some states where a lot of that is provided by the state, that's not the case here. So typically what we'll do is we will issue bonds, debts, and pay that back over a period of time from revenue that we generate, largely through tuition and fees. And so having enough net assets to be seen in the capital markets as a good credit, somebody that you want to lend to because you think they'll be able to pay you back, is very, very important. And what that does is it reduces our cost of capital. We pay less to borrow than most other types of entities. We have a very good credit rating, the third highest possible credit rating among colleges and universities, and keeping that allows us to maintain this business model that we have. And so then we can invest in laboratory modernization, we can invest in AV and desktop technology, network technology, internet technology, and the buildings that we need, to scale for our campus immersion enrollment. So last year we were at about $194 million. If you look back at about the last 3 years, I decided it was probably not worth a chart to do this, but I monitor this very carefully. We were at about $250 million net margin these last couple of years, but there's a reason for that. And the reason is we went through a period of time, where people had to work remotely if they worked at all, and we had all these health precautions, and a lot of organizations had substantial financial difficulties. Higher education in this country was very fortunate, and the federal government stepped in and provided a tremendous amount of resources, both to support individual students, but also to support institutions. What we did was that we had a multi-year plan for that. No one, of course, at the start of the pandemic knew how long it was going to last or what the ultimate outcomes were going to be, but we wanted to make sure that we didn't spend all that money initially so that we would be able to work our way through that. And so we consciously saved some of that money from the start to spend over a period of years. Well, during fiscal year 24, which you're looking at on the left here, that was the last year that we had any of that money remaining. And so now this year, our original budget, we thought would have a net margin of about $66 million, honestly, a little bit lower than I would like it to be for the reasons that I mentioned earlier. The good news is we did our last quarterly update. We said, we're actually doing slightly better than that. We think we're about a $74 million projected net margin. Of course, is the number as of June 30th of 2025. So I know it's wrong. I just don't know where. You know, we do our best to try to project that. And of course, the board then gets to ask all their questions and say, well, have you thought about this, or why are you doing that, et cetera. And that's, you know, part of the give and take of public accountability. And so we work our way through that. So, you know, one of the things that we're working on is how we can perhaps build that number up a little higher in terms of our structural balance between revenue expense in future years, while still doing the things that we need to do, you know, to advance the university in teaching, in research, and service, et cetera. And so, you know, that's a work in progress. So one other measure that's gotten a lot of attention, I kind of mentioned the accountability, et cetera. You've probably seen people going on and on about days cash on hand. What is that? Well, that is really the liquidity of the university. How much ability do we have to manage unanticipated volatility, financial downturns of various types? And basically, it's the net assets of the institution, or net position of the institution, divided by the number of days. You know, we spend, our payroll, for example, is just under $70 million every payroll, which is our biggest single expense. And so this is a measure that experts have come up with to say, well, how are you doing? You know, are you able to pay your bills? Do you have the ability to withstand, you know, some negative events, those types of things? And so the board has established a range, and you kind of see it there. The green line at the top is the high end of the range, the red is the lower end of the range, and then our number is actually the gold columns there. Last year we were 164 days cash on hand. Right now we project to be at 160 million days cash on hand, still comfortably within, you know, the parameters that the board has set, a little bit toward the lower end, which means that, you know, we're able to use a little bit more resources than we would be if we were to be higher into that range. As I mentioned, you know, the exhaustion of the pandemic funds is a factor there in terms of that decline. And then some of the reduction in state investment also is a part of that. So very important that we say this is something that, you know, credit rating agencies watch closely. Now ABOR is watching it closely because of the challenges our sister institution had. And so this is something that that we have to be attentive to. And the good thing is, due to everybody's great efforts, you know, we're in a good place. And we think that as long as we continue to make good decisions, continue to bring in enrollment, you know, continue to have successful fundraising, et cetera, that, you know, we'll stay there. So that's basically what I want to try to cover here. But if there are questions, I'll be happy to try to address them.
Thank you for that. I'm gonna have to cite you. I know it's wrong, but I just don't know where. That's a good quote I'm gonna have to use. Thank you for that, and thank you for your time, obviously, and expertise in this area. So for the purposes of this time, we are going to go campus by campus just to make sure that everybody is heard. It does take a little bit more time, but I think it's worth it in this case. So we'll start with West Valley. Mary, are there any questions from West Valley?
I did have a quick question of my own.
Please.
Dr. Olson, oh, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I was going to ask Dr. Olson, do you have any concerns about this particular kind of strategy running itself out? I don't know if that made sense, but one of the things that I hear from my elderly relatives and from a lot of other people around is that they are concerned that if we're always rolling up, so to speak, growing in order to stay alive, that eventually we'll reach a point where we can't do that. And so I just wonder if you have concerns and what we may have done to prevent that, or if it's just nothing to worry about.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think it's a great question. So I would say a couple of things. Yeah, we all need to be concerned about that. There's no question we're a very enrollment-driven institution. And, you know, when you look at the fact that tuition revenue is 6 times our public investment, you know, that kind of tells you that. But I'll also tell you a little story. As I said, I've been here about 16 years. I came here from Purdue University, you know, very good university. Still have a lot of friends there. They do pretty well. And I remember I had one of the trustees there say to me basically, well, you know, seems like a really interesting opportunity, but, you know, do you think it's reproducible, or is this just sort of, you know, a flash in the pan or worse? And you know, I did my due diligence, and here I am. So I guess you can guess what my answer was. But yes, we do need to do this. One thing that I think I'm encouraged by is that, you know, we have a very different, and I apologize, you know, I'm going to use some business speak here, so I'm going to apologize in advance. You know, we have a very different business model today than we had, say, in 2008. So we have demonstrated our adaptability and our resilience, and have been able to adjust and do that in a way where, you know, we didn't have, you know, layoffs of faculty. We didn't have, you know, students who couldn't come because we couldn't afford to offer their programs. We found a way. It wasn't always fun. You know, I remember a few years where none of us got, you know, salary increases, but we evolved our strategy. We leveraged technology. We became big, fast in online learning. We increased the number of non-resident students, California, other states, other countries. Couple of examples, there are many more. You know, we've been able to do that, and so, you know, I am confident that that we have the capacity collectively to do that. It might be a little bit different strategy this next time. You know, enrollment increases have already slowed down in a lot of parts of our country, much less the rest of the world. You know, our enrollment isn't growing as fast, particularly our campus immersion enrollment, as it was, say, a decade ago. You know, we need to continue to evolve. And so when you see things like, you know, Learning Enterprise and these partnerships we have with other organizations, that's all part of that adaptive strategy to be able to, you know, kind of keep the virtuous cycle going. And so Provost Gonzalez will tell you that there probably isn't a week that goes by that we don't talk about, you know, what's happening in terms of student recruitment and admissions and applications and all that sort of thing. We need to keep that going. Will exactly what we're doing now and exactly the way we're doing it, you know, be the answer forever? I suspect not, but I feel like we have as good a chance of adapting as anybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Polytechnic. Any questions, colleagues from Polytechnic?
I'll throw a question. Do we have any idea of like a time horizon where we can sustain our revenue streams to almost have an independence of whatever the state legislature does?
Yeah. So I guess what I would say about that is, you know, there was a time where, you know, state investment was probably 40% of the university's operating budget. And we were then much more reliant and much more susceptible to volatility in that level of investment. And so today, as you probably saw in a couple of the charts, you know, state investment is basically 9% of our revenue. You know, when I tell people that, they're like, no, you know, single digit, 9%, and I can't believe that. But that's what it is. And we've adapted to that. And so, you know, we still need to advocate, and we do as strongly as we can, for the importance of public investment in higher education. But we have alternative strategies that we can use as necessary. And, you know, you've seen, you know, President Crow evolve our strategy in terms of how we present the university, you know, to the public and certainly to decision makers in the state. And I think we'll probably continue to do that. You know, sometimes we think, well, gosh, maybe by having as much success in some of these other areas as we do, it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. People look at it and say, you know, oh, well, maybe I don't need to help too much more here. And you know, we always consider that. But I think what it also does, our ability, you know, to continue to succeed we're a good investment. You know, people like to invest in successes and organizations that have great outcomes. Are we always perfect? Of course not. You know, do people always agree with everything they do? Of course not. But I think by and large, most people believe that Arizona State University is very successful and an important societal force, certainly in the state of Arizona, and increasingly around the country and the world. That's something you probably want to invest in. And so I think the upside is more than the downside here. And you know, I don't want to leave anybody with the impression, and certainly President Crow would not be happy with me if I did, you know, that we're somehow giving up on state investment. We are absolutely not. We're continuing to advocate, make the case, working hard. We have a whole team of people who does nothing other than that, but it's a piece of our overall strategy. And having diversification and balance, I think, helps us address the concern that you raised.
Thank you. Great question. Next, we'll move to downtown. Colleagues, are there any questions from downtown?
We have two questions downtown.
Okay. Okay.
Come up and get the microphone. I don't know, do I need to go? Come on up.
Question, and you may have already answered it for me. My name is Julie Sullivan Featheridge. I'm a professor with the College of Nursing. And my question is, you know, if you view ASU from the standpoint of fiscal wealth, college metrics are we looking at comparatively when we examine other similar public research institutions? Are we meeting the bar? Are we meeting?
So you're
We
dropping
couldn't
out.
hear that. Yeah.
I heard bar and then it dropped out.
Repeat it for
Use the
you.
microphone.
You've given us a taste of fiscal status. I'm sorry, let me get.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So my question is, you've given us kind of like a menu of what the fiscal status of ASU is. Now, I wanted to know, how are we comparing the issue of the fiscal status and increased enrollment against the knowledge metrics that we wish to reach compared to similar public research institutions?
No,
make
thank
sense?
you. Thank you. Absolutely. Wonderful question. And you'll have to forgive me, you know, because I'm the CFO. So if I'm not worried about, you know, financial metrics, well, you know, who will? We're probably in trouble. So I do, but you're absolutely right. You know, universities do not exist to generate a return for stockholders, you know, the way a corporation would. That's, you know, sort of the prime directive there. You know, we exist to benefit society in line with our mission and with the ASU charter. And so that is a very different calculus. All these financial measures are only one thing. They're a means to an end. Now they're important because, you know, without the resources, you can't have the outcomes, programmatic outcomes, et cetera, but they aren't why we exist, and they are in many ways less important than things we're looking to do programmatically and the outcomes we're looking to create. And so there are other people who are certainly you know, focused on those things. You know, we spend a tremendous amount of time, for example, talking about research productivity, you know, and the Herd rankings and how we look in this program or this school or this field compared to others. And I hope you've seen some of that information. I suspect it's been shared. We look pretty darn good. We are one of the fastest growing research universities in the world, certainly, and certainly in the country. And that has been of some longstanding. You know, we will be $1 billion research university, $1 billion in annual Herd research expenditures next time those figures are compiled. So if you look at that, it's what's known as a J curve or a hockey stick, you know, rapid upward rise. That's an example in the research area. I think in terms of a lot of the things we do academically, the proportion of students who come from you know, first time in college families, from lower income families, those are also tremendous improvement over the last 10 to 15 years. Many of our academic programs, and I'm going to, you know, rely on Provost Gonzalez to share those in whatever fashion she might like, but tremendous stories in terms of a whole wide range of our academic programs. And so I would say that yes, you know, the outcomes are there. Can we do better? Can we do more? Absolutely. And there are a whole bunch of people making that happen. It's not me for sure, but you know, I think it's a good story in almost any regard. You know, you see that in how people reflect their perceptions of us. I can't tell you how many times I hear from people who say something roughly along the lines of, well, you know, Arizona State University used to be a different place, and it was convenient, but you know, that was maybe the best thing that people would say about it. They don't say that today. You know, they're talking about our academic excellence, about the impact we make in our communities, about how innovative we are, many other points of proof. They look at Arizona State University today in a much more favorable way. You know, we have people, for example, clamoring to go to the Barrett Honors College. Tremendous opportunity for those students. I would also say another example is we've been very successful in increasing the amount of investment that we get from private donors. These are individuals, you know, through the work of the ASU Foundation. It's through private foundations. It's through corporate philanthropy, et cetera. Ultimately, I think that's an important measure of how people see the university and whether they think the university is improving, is their willingness to invest their resources, with which they have options, by the way, in us rather than other places. So totally appreciate the question, and it's something we all have to keep our eyes on, but I think those proof points are there.
Good
Thank
answer.
you.
Good response.
You said that's a great response. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Vice Provost. Hi, Vice Provost. Thanks for being here. So my name is Roddy Nickpour. I have a question based as part of the University Senate Personnel Senate Committee, and it's kind of a two-part question. So I apologize in advance. One is about the $350 fees for students in the spring, and another is about cost of living. And I just also want to call out, like, I hate how awkward this always is to like ask questions that seem combative, but not trying to be combative. So I apologize for the nature of the dynamic. But I think that the thing that we were noticing on this committee was the allocation of the $350 fees for students. And we all definitely agree with Michael Crow's perspective on advancing the university in a financially sound way. And actually, I really appreciated the rainy day savings perspective that you were sharing in the presentation just now too. But we were trying to figure out what the 350 was doing, because I think by the committee's calculation, that revenue exceeded what deficits we had from the state. And please correct me if that's incorrect as well. So I guess the first question was just what the 350 is specifically going toward.
Sure.
And then the other part of that question was just about kind of this idea of like merit increases versus cost of living adjustments. I think that certainly on the committee and perhaps across the Senate, people are concerned about this idea of like a merit increase being a nominal 2% without an additional cost of living adjustment. So it feels like a cloaked cost of living adjustment. And I don't know if I'm articulating these questions correctly, but basically what we're concerned about, like, you know, frankly, not even most of us, I think, but the lower people at ASU who make a lower level on the socioeconomic status, like how the lack of cost of living adjustments is going to affect that retention on that level. So again, two parts. What's the 350 actually going toward in lieu of state funding, and the cost of living versus merit increase?
Yep. So great questions. Thank you for those. On the first question, he's referring to the surcharge that we put in place for the spring semester. And our hope would be that, you know, it'll be a one semester thing and that's all. $350. It nets out to about $20 million. Why does it net? Because we are providing additional aid, institutional aid, to students that have need to offset that cost. And so the net revenue is less than the gross. I don't remember exactly what the gross is, but the net is about $20 million that's available, which is roughly equivalent to the amount of reduction in the final budget relative to what was originally approved by ABOR, which, by the way, was the governor's recommendation. Of course, it didn't get funded. So roughly intended to you know, offset that in current dollars. And then on the merit pools, couple of points. One, you know, we have continued to increase the entry-level pay, you know, for some of the lowest categories. That's happened on the faculty side. So for example, last year we put a little bit over $8 million additional into the base that will continue and increment, each year, so that we could bring what are now career track faculty beginning salaries up to $60,000 minimum. That would cost about $8 million each year. Similarly, we're doing that in some of the areas on the support side with grounds workers, for example. We're increasing the entry-level salaries. We've raised those entry-level salaries several times over the last couple of years. We also made some changes based on a Fair Labor Standards Act regulation that the Biden administration put in place. It's now been erased by the court. We're not going to go out and say, well, gosh, give us the money back. That's going to stay where it is. So we've tried to be sensitive, to our colleagues that are at the lower end of the pay scale. Would we like to do more? Absolutely. We understand the challenges out there, and when we can, we will. President Crow has been pretty clear that these are merit-based increases. And so we each need to, do the best that we can and expect to be rewarded from that. So that's how we've always done these distributions, and I suspect probably will going forward. But we'd like those, to be bigger. And the way to do that, of course, is increase revenue, so that we can afford to do that. But we've tried to be sensitive and address the impacts on people who are probably at the lower end of the ability to pay scale.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much for,
Thank you for asking that question too on behalf of personnel. I know it's a lot of important work that you all are doing. Next, we'll move to Tempe, and we have about 13-ish more minutes for questions. So Tempe. Any questions from our colleagues?
We have two questions. First, Senator Windhorst from CC.
Roger Windhorst, School of Earth and Space Exploration. Excellent presentation there, Morgan. Thank you very much. So we've been blessed as university in the last 15 years with a groundswell of federal dollars, and the sign was positive. My question or statement is not political, but it is conceivable that in the near future, the federal dollars will go down, or at least will undergo large fluctuations. What can we best do as faculty and university to anticipate that and to mitigate that?
Yeah, no, thank you, Roger, for the question. As Provost Gonzalez, I think, alluded to in her comments, what we would definitely expect is some change in priorities. I don't know whether that will mean, it's all unidirectional down. What it might mean is, some different emphases. And, one of the things that, President Crow called his executive leadership team together within the first week after the election. And basically, I'm going to shorten this by about 3 hours, but to basically say, hey, there was an election, there was an outcome, get on with it, be smart about it. Think about what the opportunities are here. Think about our values and how we advance them and defend them and allow them to sort of be successful. That was his whole message to us is, if you need to be sad at home, but, you're supposed to be helping lead the institutions. We need you, to exude confidence and to be smart, to be thinking about what's the right strategy for what we anticipate coming, and then to adjust as we learn more, which we do almost every day. So, we'll see how that goes. But I think that we are very well positioned as an institution. More importantly, President Crow believes that we are, and we just need to play to our strengths and make sure people understand what those are. A lot of the things that I talked about in my remarks, higher education used to be, if you looked at public opinion polls, we were up there with the clergy, right? Now we're barely ahead of Congress. So I don't know what's going on here, but we need to be thoughtful about that. The things that are enduring values, we shouldn't change. We should defend them. The things that maybe we should at least think about, well, what are we doing? How are we doing it? Why are we doing it? Most importantly, how are we communicating about it? Let's adapt as necessary. And I think a lot of the things with our charter and our strategy and our inclusiveness, our innovation, we're pretty well positioned. We just need to make that case. And there are actually people who are working on that as we sit here talking.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon, Dr. Olsen. Thank you for coming with an interesting presentation and informative presentation. I'm Bruno Wolfert. I'm the current chair of the Services and Facilities Committee. And I had actually two questions, maybe a follow-up question. The first one is regarding investments in refurbishing and maintaining old buildings versus building new structure. My office is in Goldwater, for example, and a lot of things are not working properly in Goldwater.
I'm aware.
Yeah. And I was wondering, what's the proportion of the budget that goes into new structures versus, maintaining and making sure that old buildings, don't fall apart?
Right. No, excellent point. We now have a built environment, where our 4 campuses, our locations on either side of the country, et cetera, of over 29 million gross square feet. It's a lot of space. And, we spend a lot of time figuring about, how do we maintain that investment? And, people, frankly, tend to like new stuff, edifice complex, whatever you want to call it. And so there's a certain amount of just sort of, gravity toward that. I try to be an advocate for taking care of what we already have. I think we're doing better with that. It's hard to get a donor to fund, say, well, gosh, we need a new electrical distribution system, and it's all underground, so you can't see it. But trust me, it's important. That probably is not going to work. So, we have to sort of think about, well, what are our various sources, and how do we make sure that we're funding the things that are most important, as opposed to necessarily, the bright, shiny new objects all the time. Now, we've got plenty of those, as you know, and the people who are able to benefit from those are absolutely thrilled, I can assure you. But we do need to take care of what we have. I try to be an advocate for that. And I will also tell you that, President Crow likes to take walks on our campuses. And so it's not uncommon for me to get 4 or 5 pictures from him of things that he thinks aren't up to snuff. So, I don't know where he finds the time for all this, but I get the pictures and then we try to fix them. In fact, ideally, what we would like to do, is stay in front of him. The only problem with that is he keeps walking around until he finds something. And anytime you got 100,000 plus people running around and 29 million gross square feet, well, you'll find something, especially after a football game. But, we're working on that. And I think you probably could make a very rational case for increasing the level of investment that, we have in our existing built environment. So we're working on that, strategizing, figuring out how to do it. And apologies for some of the challenges with Goldwater, aware of them, working on them.
Okay, thank you for your answer. My second question is about your Assistant Vice President, Jim Dwyer. I believe he left, and we came to my office about 2 years ago about campus transportation and traffic on campus. And so we had a long discussion, but we never had any follow-up on education for students and the talk with the police, and so on. And I was wondering, so now that the belief is gone.
And sorry, this was who?
Jim Dwyer.
Okay.
Who should I talk to establish
so
that, to continue the dialogue? Or?
If you're talking about sort of the ASU transportation network,
Yeah.
which is, bikes and scooters and, much to my chagrin, skateboards and shuttles and light rail and modern streetcar, et cetera, I would suggest talking with Rudy Bellavia, who's Vice President for University Business Services. And if you send me a note, I'll make sure to connect you guys. One of the challenges is always communication. Turns out that about 1/3 of our student body every year is brand new. So anything that happened, more than 6 months ago doesn't exist. So you start all over again. You're probably familiar with this concept in your classrooms. Well, guess what? It exists in various support services as well. But we're always open, you know, to new ideas. I had the opportunity recently to ride in our new electric bus, and let me tell you, this thing is awesome. I mean, it has Wi-Fi so that you can, it's all classwork. You can be on Canvas and be doing your coursework when you're riding between our campuses. No Netflix, I'm sure. Air conditioned, everything you could possibly want. And of course, it meets our sustainability goals. We're hoping to expand that. We're electrifying all types of our fleets. But there's always more that we can do, and we try to partner on that. So the city of Tempe operates some of the assets, but we benefit from them. Valley Metro operates some of the assets. We partner, benefit from them. We try to do that. But I would be happy to, find out what's on people's minds, what suggestions they have, and if we can, come up with some new good ideas, happy to have them.
Well, thank you for your answer. I must say that having facilities management a bit more responsive to requests would go a long way to mitigate problems.
Appreciate that.
From time to time, yes.
No, I happen to know those people. I think they work pretty hard. It's a tough job, but there are always ways that we can do better, and we're happy to engage in conversation and take suggestions on that too.
Okay, thank you. One more question from here, and then we're going to move on to Zoom.
Thank you very much. I'm Laurie Suff. I am also a member of the University Senate Personnel Committee, and another issue that we have been discussing that I've been asked to bring up is the issue of the budget decentralization, which I admit I do not understand because it seems to me an Orwellian term for the opposite of that, where you pay into the central administration. And you had presented in your presentation about how President Crow and the administration is really encouraging units to generate their own revenue and to find innovative ways, and it makes it a little more difficult when the administration is constantly asking us to pay money into that without us really understanding what that's all about. So if you just might explain that, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. No, I know exactly where you're coming from. My areas are actually the second largest contributor to decentralization, so I feel your pain. Going up to the high level, decentralization in my mind is actually a way of enforcing a process of thinking about highest and best uses for any dollar. We have a budget of about $5 billion annually, so it's never enough, but it's also a lot of money. And there's a tendency, I think, with all of us, I know this happens to me, is I get comfortable doing things in a certain way. I just sort of assume, well, that's the way we do it. And I'm actually not focused that I'm looking at this new thing we ought to be doing over here. But, in any organization this large, there are things that probably could be done differently or maybe not done, et cetera. And so decentralization, which basically is a requirement that every unit of the institution basically contribute a certain proportion of its revenue. It's, between 3 and 4% last time I calculated, that then it actually is reinvested. And so what it does in some respects is, I don't like it when I have to give up that much of my resources, but then it's reinvested in, it's sort of like venture capital. It's how we fund some of the things, that we think are going to be really important to the future success of the university. But I think there's a sense that maybe, kind of moderating that, if we can figure out a way to do it and make everything work, would probably be a good thing. I know I'd vote for that. So, we'll see how that goes. But that's at least, at a kind of a theoretical level, that's the idea behind it.
Thank you. Dr. Olson, are you good on time? Can we take one more question, perhaps from Zoom?
Yes.
Okay, this will be the last question. Maria?
Hey, Senator Lopez, please unmute.
I'm Gilbert Lopez from the School of Transborder Studies. My question is about, you have a slide, I believe it's called something about entrepreneurial incentives or something like that.
Yes.
So my question is, as faculty, we get this message that we're encouraged to create more classes, especially online classes. That message seems to be coming from the top. However, when we try to create these new classes, we're told that we can't because there's no funding for it. We can't get paid extra above our normal course load. There seems to be this magic number that no one seems to want to tell me. of how many students should enroll for a class to make. Where can we get this information? And the second part of this is with regards to grants, similar issue. We're told bring more grants, bring more grants. This happened to me last summer. I brought in more than 100% full-time, FTE, but I was told you can't pay yourself more than 100% FTE. So I wasn't able to use some of that grant. So this goes against this idea of the entrepreneur spirit that I appreciate about ASU. So I don't know if you could answer any of that or shed some light on any of this. Thank you.
Yeah, well, no, I definitely, appreciate the question. Again, at a high level, we work really, really hard on trying to provide an environment where people feel like, hey, I actually can innovate. People will listen to my ideas and that you can actually do them. I have found compared to other places that I've worked that we're not perfect, but we do pretty well on that. Arizona's kind of a place where nobody may hand you money and say, here, why don't you go do this? But if you can figure out how to do it yourself, chances are nobody's going to say you can't do it. Now, your experience may be a little bit different than that. And I would encourage you to, talk with, your academic leadership and, see if they might be able to help with some of that. I'm in charge of a lot of magic numbers, not that particular one, but, we do try to foster and create that kind of an environment. But I think, it will always be true in a university that there won't be enough resources immediately to do everything that everyone wants to do and has a good sound rationale for doing. But we do our best to try to make sure that we get to as many of those things as possible. And I think our success is evidence of that. So I'd encourage you to, have discussion with people who are in the leadership chain there. And I know that, if Nancy feels like there are some things that really need to be changed to, allow for greater productivity and creativity, that you'll bring those forward. And, I know that the leadership of the university will be very interested in hearing those ideas. So I appreciate the question. Sorry, I can't give you a more specific, responsive answer, but don't give up.
Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Olson, again, for your time and your levity and your the spirit that you bring to this stuff. I mean, it's tough, but we really appreciate your time and your generosity in meeting with us today. And again, colleagues, this is not the end of the conversation. So if you have more questions, please let us know. We're all ears and we'll continue the conversation. And thank you again. We appreciate it.
Well, Elisa, thank you. It's my pleasure, and I'd be remiss if I didn't thank all of you for everything that you do for our students and for ASU. It takes the whole village, and so I'm really proud to be just one member of that village. I think it's a great place, and it is because of all the work that you do. So thank you and congratulations. Appreciate
Thank
your
you. Moving on, we do have our Senator Spotlight, and then we're going to move into some business and hopefully wrap this meeting up with a bow. But we're going to move into our shared governance section of the agenda and highlight our Senator Mary Louise, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this correctly, Paulson, who is a senator from our downtown campus, although I believe she is in Tempe. Yep. If you want to speak a little bit about yourself, and really, I've just enjoyed getting to know you and all the brilliance you bring to our work, and I'm so happy to highlight you in our December meeting.
Thank you so much. I'm Marie-Louise Paulesque, and I'm on the Tempe campus, even though I represent the downtown campus because of my teaching schedule. I'm teaching on the Tempe campus on the days when we have meetings, so that's why I'm here. I'm an assistant teaching professor in the School of Applied Sciences and Arts, and I am a proud alumna of ASU. I earned my master's degree here and also my PhD in communication here. And this is my 10th year as a fixed term, full-time faculty at ASU. I don't really like to talk a lot about myself, so I appreciate the person who nominated me to be spotlighted today. However, I would like to take this opportunity to move the spotlight on two groups of people to which I belong, and that I think are very important for the university. One is the group of faculty that I represent, Languages and Cultures, a group of faculty doing extraordinary extraordinary things. Some of them doing research that impacts their respective disciplines. Some of them recent recipients of Fulbright scholarships. Some of them, most of them, are actually doing really great work teaching, and many of them teach first-year students, and we know that that's a really important part of what the teaching work of the people who are who have teaching intensive positions. Part of what I'm going to say about me is that for the last, so this is my 9th year, having working with underrepresented students in the LEAD program, teaching communication as a promise to help their success in terms of their academic journey and in terms of their professional journey as well. And this brings me to the second group that I would like to highlight, and that's communication instructors. For whatever reason, the communication faculty downtown, the communication faculty's collaboration from downtown with the LEAD program is going to end after this year. I don't know whether or not it's a consequence of the new Gen Ed framework, but part of what I'm trying to say right now is to highlight the work communication instructors do for the success of our students in the contemporary context, from personal to academic to professional to civic. I think that we want to ensure that our students are successful and that they get communication education. I don't want to talk too much. There's a lot of research supporting everything that I say, the way in which communication education impacts personal, professional, academic, and civic, the civic life of our students. But I just want to say that I encourage everyone who is in charge of curriculum or major maps, or who can influence those courses or major maps, to actually add a communication class. And I know it might seem self-serving, however, and to some level, probably it is, but I want us to focus on the way in which this would actually serve our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. See what I said about the brilliance? Very brilliant. Thank you. We appreciate hearing from you and all the work, and thank you for being a senator and for your service. We're going to move into unfinished business and general orders. So back in September, we had a new course proposal, CEL 340, that was entitled Race in America. It was discussed and returned to committee because it was considered a duplication of courses. As Claudia and I talked about at the beginning, there was some work done behind the scenes to mediate and address some of that. And now the course is being returned to us for reconsideration as CEL 340, Race and the American Story. This is a motion returning from the committee, so we do not need a second in this situation. The floor is open for discussion before we take a vote on this. So if there are any points or comments on this unfinished business, please step up to the podium or mic.
Hi, everyone. I'm Karen Kuo. I'm in the School of Social Transformation. I'm an associate professor. And we actually deliberated with Skedel and Dr. Seagrave about this course. And certainly it's not our intention as a school to stop anyone from passing the courses. But I just want to make a statement, essentially, that I think exceeds also CEL 340. So the School of Social Transformation sees a number of course proposals figuring racial analysis from departments and faculty who seem to have little to no training in anti-racist research or curriculum. Duplication of courses across the university that compete with SST courses often come from faculty and departments who are not adequately trained in anti-racist work. SST, however, is a program of scholars who research and teach ethnic studies related curriculum. So many of our faculty have degrees in either ethnic studies or whose degrees reflect ethnic studies type work in their dissertations, books, and journal publications. There is a long history of study of race with disciplines that began since the civil rights movement, with the third world strikes at universities demanding that both traditional disciplines and new disciplines reflect the experiences and histories of women and people of color. As a program with scholars whose research and teaching formatively examine race, gender, and sexuality, we think it's important to make sure that courses from other disciplines adequately convey the core work of anti-racism to students. We want to emphasize that as faculty across the university that we preserve the integrity of anti-racist research and teaching. We have responsibilities as educators to better serve our students, to become knowledgeable citizens in the world. So, thank you.
Thank you for that. Are there any additional comments or points to mention before we move to a vote? Okay. Maria, I think we are good to call the vote.
Okay, stand by. Okay, everyone, so this is a motion in front of you for you to vote on. It's, do you approve new course proposal CEL 340, Race and the American Story? Please vote. Okay, a few more seconds. Please continue to submit your votes. Okay, stopping the poll. Motion passes with 61 votes, which is 59%.
Thank you, Maria. Next, we'll move on to new business, and we have first reads from CAPC. Again, remember, these are just a notice for us to make note of them. This is not a time, again, to ask questions other than clarifying questions. And remember, January 30th, that's when, I'm gonna give everyone a deadline. That is when you can reach out to Claudia or myself. If you can't reach either of us, we can reach either of us, honestly. If you have any question or comment about any of the CAPC motions. So Claudia, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so you already mentioned the deadline. Actually, January 20th, 30th is when we hold our next CAPC meeting. So if you could get a hold of me before that, not on the 30th, that would be better if you do have any kind of questions. So these items will return to you on your next meeting, which is actually February 3rd. There are going to be three motions. I'm going to read them out to you. Motion 2025-34, request from New College of Interdisciplinary Arts and Sciences, School of Interdisciplinary Forensics, for the name change of an undergraduate degree from BS in Computational Forensics to BS in Digital Forensics. Motion 2025-35, request from New College of Interdisciplinary Arts and Sciences, School of Social and Behavioral Sciences, for the establishment of a graduate certificate in behavioral data science. And then last, motion 2025-36, request from the Ira A. Fulton Schools of Engineering, the engineering programs, the Polytechnic School, for the establishment of a graduate degree, PhD in clean energy systems. And I'm also going to remind you that CAPC deliberates over minor changes in programs and names, and these are listed in the appendix for your consideration, and they do not return to the Senate. But again, if you have questions or concerns regarding those, contact me or President Crum. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. Okay, moving on. We're not going to make the 4:50 cutoff for open forum. Again, I'm going to try. We had a lot of open forum today. Moving on to second reads. The first action item for us are our course proposals that came from the provost office. These were sent again by Maria about 2 weeks ago, and now we will move into, because of the number of courses, we will vote on them as a group and gross. However, if any senator has a course that they would like to pull out of that list, now is the time to bring that to the attention of the Senate. Crickets. Okay, hearing no requests, we will vote on the courses.
Okay, so this is new course proposal vote. Do you approve of Senate Motion 2025-33, new course proposals in gross? Ending the poll. Motion passes with 99 votes, 94%.
Thank you, Maria. Similar protocol, we'll move into new course proposals. This is the second, sorry, not new course proposals, I apologize. CAPC motions. These are the second read CAPC motions. Similarly with new course proposals, we will vote on them in gross. However, if anyone has an issue, of course, they can pull one out. So does anybody have a comment or a question or an issue with any of the second read CAPC motions? Okay, then once again, thank you. I will turn it back over. Maria.
Okay, so this is for the CAPC motions in gross. Do you approve of the CAPC motions in gross? Ending the poll. Motion passes with 102 votes, 97%.
Thank you, Maria. We have one more thing to vote on, colleagues. If you remember back in November, we heard from our partners over at SkySong, who presented to us all about patents and how they work at ASU and brought forth RSP 604, which were some updates and changes to our patent policy. That was a first read back in November, and now it's time to vote on that motion. So this would be motion 22532 RSP 604. Is there any discussion, comments, given that this is a second read? Okay, hearing none, we can call the vote.
Okay, so this is for other motions, and the motion reads, do you approve of Senate Motion 2025-32, proposed updates to RSP 604, ownership of research data and materials in intellectual property management implementation policy? Please vote. A for yes, B for no, or C to abstain. Ending the poll. Motion passes 87 votes, 81%.
Thank you, Maria, and congratulations to our colleagues over at SkySong. This is a really great partnership that we forged with them. We do not have any committee reports right now. I'm sure we'll have a whole litany in spring. And so now we have 6 minutes, I tried really hard, for open forum. So if any senator wishes to bring any item up or announce anything, this is certainly the time to do that. So you can either stand up, go to the microphone, or wave your president down, flag them down. Okay. Well, hearing none, somehow, y'all, we did it 6 minutes early. Thank you. Please enjoy the rest of your evening. It's the last marathon before the break. Thank you all for your service. I look forward to seeing you in 2025. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming to Halloween.
Oh, of course.
That's such a surprise. I'm
So
like, whoa,
enjoyable.
it became very formal in this room.
And I didn't go.
Okay, appreciate that.